Welcome to Coach to You, everyone. I am your host, Coach Regina, and I am back with another video, you guys. Now, today's topic is actually going to be about stress management, okay? And this is actually a really good topic. I think it's very timely, for the season that we're in. Many of us are probably overcoming, different aspects of stress, coming from, the previous year, dealing with holidays, Christmas, and different things like that. So we're fast forward into 2025, and some of us may be, overcoming a little bit of those stressors that were from the previous year, and then some of us are just maybe coming out of our own bouts of stress of everyday life, if you will. So before I jump in, I want to go ahead and give my disclaimer, you guys. Although I'm a student of psychology, I'm not a licensed health professional. All content and information on this channel stems from my own personal experience and extensive research and is for information and educational purposes only and should not be considered professional medical advice. If you feel you have a mental health condition, seek the guidance of a medical professional. Okay, so that's that, you guys. Again, today's topic is stress management. So, as we delve into the intricacies of stress management, let's talk about how we can explore various techniques and strategies to help individuals navigate the complexities of stress in modern life. Now, when I talk about modern, I'm talking about like right now, real life scenarios, real situations, and just like dealing with things that not necessarily are like chaotic, if you will. Sometimes stress can be just triggered by just mundane things. You know what I mean? Stress has become an omnipresent aspect of our daily routines, and so we are not. We may not become knowledgeable to how it affects our mental health as well as our physical well-being as well. So, the last time on my podcast, I talked about stress, and I talked about the physiological responses of stress. I talked to you about the fight or flight response that can be triggered by our hormonal changes in the body and how our body begins to prepare us for that instance of a threat. And so we talked about that a little bit as well. I mentioned how you experience the increased heart rate as well as heightened alertness during those times. But I also mentioned to you about what happens when you are on a call, or you're just dealing with your spouse or your children, if you will, right? And you become heightened in a physical sense because of that instance where your body is becoming stressed. When we're not aware of these responses and recognizing how the stress of a stressful situation affects us individually, that's when I talked about how we begin to react rather than respond. Okay, so I think the thing that I mentioned to you was having to confront situations that are uncomfortable for you. You know, when someone violates your boundaries, your values, if you will, and you have to discuss with them, that can trigger a stress response as well. Like I mentioned, if you're on a call or you're dealing with your children or something like that, and you're becoming physiologically aroused in that moment, you're sending stress hormones or the signal to the body that you perceive a threat, and our body begins to take on all these different physiological changes, and in return it prepares us for that instance when I mentioned about the fight or flight. Okay, so let's talk about how we stress is introduced into the modern day, like I mentioned. Okay, um, you're at a situation where, let's see, your job is threatened. I think we talked about that as well. Somebody cuts you off on the road. You get a text from someone that just triggers you instantaneously. And the thing that we discussed was how mindfulness plays a key role in those type of responses and how we handle them, right? So when you're triggered in those situations, and I told you that typically what happens is that from the neurological standpoint, we're coming from trauma. And so if it's our cousin, then that person cutting us off on the road is just like our cousin that in that instance. If it is our cousin, again, it doesn't matter. When you are physically aroused by a perceived threat, your body is sending signals. Your brain is sending stress hormones signals to your body, and it's producing stress hormones. Okay, and if we're reacting rather than responding, we're continuously producing those cortisol in our body. And the problem with that is that it begins to create dis-ease. Okay? That is very, very crucial because different illnesses show up, and a lot of times people are not aware as to where they come from. But the truth of the matter is, the body keeps the score. So when you have these physiological arousals and you're not uh, uh, like moving, fast or what have you to get away from the perceived threat, and you're standing there, you're talking to your child, and I believe I mentioned, or your spouse or something like that, or you're on a call, and you're just heightened, right? You're not moving. That energy has to go somewhere. And so the energy begins to get stored in different parts of our body, different organs, if you will. And so essentially what happens is you show up with, like I mentioned, different diseases or different ailments and pains that are triggered in the body because there is not a release. So mindfulness, again, causes you to be able to respond rather than react. And you can, in that moment, tell yourself, I am safe. All is well. Where let's go to the practices that we talked about. Meditation. Meditation slows down the brain waves. Okay, so that when you're throughout the day, when these heightened situations occur and you become triggered, you're not easily reactive as you would have if you're just going about your day on autopilot. So it's slowing down those brain waves. I think we talked about before to the slower brain waves, and in return, you are able to calm yourself in that regard, and the body then is able to go back to its state of homeostasis and rest and digest. Okay, so mindfulness and meditation are powerful tools that essentially can help us cultivate a sense of calmness and clarity. Because at that time, we're not thinking clear. We're thinking about there is an issue and I need resolution ASAP. And a lot of it, like I mentioned to you, it comes from the pre-programs that are lodged in our subconscious portion of our brain that become familiar with us. Okay? And so we have a neurological network in every part of our brain from every experience, from your spouse, from your child, from your job, from your favorite restaurant, from the favorite club you go to going to your cousin's house, to going to your mom's house. You have a neurological network housed in your portions of your brain, or compartmentalized, if you will, that associates every event with a particular physiological response. Now, the thing of it is that when we utilize these tools to help us cultivate a sense of calmness and clarity, research actually shows that practices like deep breathing, guided imagery, can significantly reduce the stress levels in our body. It actually allows for more of a centered state of mind. So rather than being on autopilot and moving about life vicariously, you're I'm not going to say because I talked about autopilot. So the opposite of autopilot would be mindfulness, and I would say centered in your state of mind. Okay? You're not as easily triggered or defensive when things occur. And let's face it, you guys, things will occur. We live in a world, in a society where we're constantly bombarded with different aspects of modern life. Social media, if you're on social media and you're constantly scrolling, looking at content and things like that, you got to understand what that is doing to your peripheral, okay? And so it's the way that the content is designed is to get you to continuously scroll, okay? And in that, if you're not practicing mindfulness and you're heightening your sense of awareness, what happens when you go from that state of scrolling, and your peripheral and so forth is being heightened. What happens when you go out into the world and you just decide to go to Jack in the Box and get you a hamburger, and this person messes up your order? Guys, mentally, that is a lot of bandwidth that is being utilized to sit and scroll on social media all day. And I have to be transparent because this has been a part of my mental health journey and my own inner healing. I also once was there. Okay, I'm probably on social media maybe once or twice a month, if that. But I realized what it was doing to my mental bandwidth. And bandwidth is needed to be able to be productive, to be able to utilize central processing, okay, to be able to utilize aspects of self discovery and purpose, okay. When you don't have a lot of bandwidth, you're constantly focusing on a lot of exterior aspects of life. You can't deal with the internal, okay. So stress management techniques help you to understand the role that all these different processes play in your overall mental health. Okay? So we touched on the importance of your mental health. We talked about stress management. Okay? We talked about mindfulness and meditation as well. And let's go ahead and talk about the physical aspects, such as movement, because I just mentioned that if you are dealing with if you're interacting with your family, you're on a call, or you're dealing with your children, right? And you become physically aroused, and yet there is no movement. I said that that energy has to go somewhere, and it becomes stored in the body. Okay, so physical activity would be the next aspect of being able to handle stress. Okay, engaging in regular physical exercise, it not only boosts endorphins levels, but it also serves as a distraction from daily stressors. So rather than sitting on social media, scrolling and looking at everybody else's lifestyle, and tick tock, wasting time, you can actually utilize that time more productively by taking a brisk walk, doing some yoga, or some type of high intensity workout. And that movement plays a crucial role in maintaining your mental health, because now what you're doing is you're getting the body moving, and that activity allows those energies to move around and be released in some type of physical exertion rather than sitting in the body. Okay, this is very, very important. Okay, guys, the information that I give to you guys is stuff that I have researched. I practice in my own life, and I realize, and I want to, like I mentioned, I want to be transparent. I used to be a very angry person, and the reason why is because I didn't do anything. I mean, I worked a 9 to 5, right, and I cooked, and that was that. But just sitting day in and day out, we must understand that our health is dependent on how we navigate this modern day sense of being. Okay, so again, physical. I talked about stress management, mindfulness meditation. I talked about physical activity. Okay, that helps to boost endorphin levels. Okay, and also takes away from it acts as a distraction from a lot of the daily stressors. And I'm gonna give you another one. Okay, I also play video games. Okay, I have a Nintendo Switch that came from my son. He wasn't doing anything with it, so I started to utilize it, and I play the Nintendo Switch, and I allow myself to get the movement and everything like that. And that's a form of release for me as well. And I'll do it for probably 15 minutes. And whatever may have been going on in my mind completely goes out the window. Okay? Um, Reading is also another way to quiet down those high, movement in the brain, where the brain is the high activity in the brain, where the brain is constantly trying to process information. Again, we're talking about slowing down the brain waves so that we can be able to effectively manage stress. Okay, so all these different techniques that I gave you is essentially crucial in being able to do that. Okay, another aspect of it that I believe is significant is the importance of social support. Okay, connected with friends or family, getting involved in support groups can provide emotional relief and practical advice during stressful times. Sharing experiences and feelings can also lighten your emotional load and foster resiliency. Okay. One of the things I do is I try to go out at least twice a month and interact with different social groups and gatherings, and I love it. It's fun. You know, you don't have people there that are judgmental and things like that. Everybody is just looking to connect, and I love it. I think it's a very fun and practical way of dealing with the stressors of modern life. Okay. So sitting inside, the opposite of that would be sitting inside yourself. Okay, uh, allowing yourself to sit with your thoughts, ruminating, stressing, and worrying over things you cannot control. That's the opposite of getting out and connecting and having a social support system. Here's the thing: not healthy. Okay, there are dark energies and forces that rely on you shutting yourself in so that those thoughts can begin to produce negative emotions, and those emotions are what fuel these dark energies out in society. Just being honest with you, I'm not a religious person. I'm actually a spiritual person, but I am aware that there are dark entities that feed off of our negative emotions: fear, shame, judgment, worry, regret, guilt. All of those different emotions put off negative energies. Okay, and so when we add stress and worrisome inside of it, right? That is a combination of fuel for these entities. Okay. Finally, the importance of time management and setting goals for yourself. Now, this one here is actually, it's very dear to my heart because this is something that I pride myself on. I'm a very goal oriented person, and I do follow a calendar, routines, and I have rituals that I do on a daily basis that help keep me grounded and centered in my mental health. Things that may have once been taken for granted are essentially things that I loathe to be a part of. Like I'm grateful to be able to practice them, and they give me a sense of peace, wonder, and awe of being a part of such a great ritual practices every day. Okay, so navigating these areas of our life, okay, can either be a hindrance or it can be a blessing for our soul's way of healing. Okay, but at the end of the day, being able to have these type of insights, it empowers us to walk our journey with the confidence to know that, look, I have these tools to be able to effectively handle stress management. Okay, you're not going to do it overnight. Okay, you must understand that the things that we deal with are things that we've been dealing with for years, and they're not going to go away overnight. Repetition is key. Practice today, start again tomorrow, start again the next day. You fall off next week, pick it back up again and get back to it. Okay, no one's here to judge you unless you judge yourself, and that is the only voice that matters. My name is Coach Regina. I want to thank you for watching. Coach to you. See you next time.